All right, I think we're ready to get started. Can everyone hear me out there?
Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Perfect.
All right, and looks like we have a quorum. We got 6.
Yeah, I can do a roll call here. So
Okay.
if you want.
All the order.
I'll do a roll call. Phil Neese,
Here.
Steve Kelsey, Jason Weaver, Nita Kemp,
Here.
Elaine Nyberg, Mark Olson,
Here.
Linda Zilmer,
Here.
Kelly Nahuda, Ron Buckholtz, Kay Wilson,
Here.
Mark Helwig, Jay Kozlowski, present. Go ahead.
All right. The state of the committee and hearing procedure. You got that?
Oh, that probably got stuck on from another one. We don't have that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Sorry.
All right, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're on D on the agenda. Do we have a motion for approval of the previous meeting minutes from 3/16?
So moved.
There's a spelling error on the minutes. Cellular is spelled incorrectly.
Where's
keep
that
going,
at?
Keep going. Yep. No. Well, it's in the minutes.
Yeah, if it's in the minutes, it probably didn't find its way into the actual changes. I do know when we talked about, promoting broadband and cellular.
There it is. Oop. 9-8 action 2.
All right, I can change that in the minutes.
Thank you. Then I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries to approve our previous minutes. All right, public comments can be taken at any time of any open meeting, or detailed comments can be expressed through written, formal, and distributed by the Sawyer County Zoning and Conservation Administrator, Jay Kozlowski. And did we have any? We did not. All right. Moving on to item 2, policy and action review for goals and objectives, compiled list with updates, discussion, action for potential approval. First up, we have the Sawyer County goals, objections, actions comparison, which is the red line version. And then we have the version non-red line with all the changes in it. I guess we can start with, I can start with one change that I noticed when I went through. And it would be, I'm looking at the final version, not the red line version, on 9.5 page. And we have 20, it's at the bottom, we have 2010 to 2015. Right there, we just went by it. Right there. I think that should be ongoing. We apparently missed that to change it. I probably missed the change. I didn't see it on the red line. So.
It's not on the red line.
We changed everything to ongoing, so that would be one change. And
So that's on.
Action 5.
That's just one action 5.
And then,
Changed to ongoing.
Yep. Then the second thing I noticed, which is just in the whole category, is under intergovernmental cooperation. I guess on the final version 9-18 is under objective 3. We have, we're talking about under the objective, strengthen the relationship between Lakota Ray and Sawyer County. I think we forgot to add the language in there on the category. So to add tribe after Lakota Ray tribe and Sawyer County on the objective. And then on action 1, action 2, and on the responsible party, add tribal after LCO. So it'd be under action 1 between the LCO tribal council and the county board. Objective 2 would be LCO tribal departments. And then on the far column, LCO tribal council and LCO tribal council. That was the only things I noted. Next. Anyone else find anything?
I did not.
Okay. Linda, do you have anything? No. Any of our online participants have any comments?
I did, but now I can't find it on this.
We'll wait a moment.
Well, it was something, everything is like maintain or do blah, 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 and this says maintaining.
Oh, I think that might have been under septics or something. I remember seeing something like that too, but I remember.
I have to bring up my copy and it may take me a little while.
I'll look while you're okay. I tried to check all those myself.
Those are 9-7.
9-7.
On the original one and the new one, stuff kind of changed for the page numbering.
Yeah.
So this one here, number 7 says, it used to say promote. Under action 7, we changed that to maintain.
That one fits. Oh, I should be looking at it already.
Oh, I can't find it.
I'll be. I'm just glancing through here.
Well, maybe if later, Kate, later afterwards, we're just doing word smithing here anyway, and I don't think there'd be when we all went through it last time. If you find it later, I would be willing to make a motion to accept what we got here as as a final version, excepting if Kay can find her minor correction and get it to Jay.
It's just very minor. It's
Okay.
almost not worth.
I don't see anything that we would have changed from the last time. Because I kind of looked through my own red line version, I don't see anything. The only word of maintain we had was switching it from promote, unless we missed something on the first go around.
Well, she was saying maintaining instead of maintaining.
Right. And I
didn't see one like this. All right, well, Bill made the motion that barring Kay finding it, or could just be a typographical correction that we would, if she keeps looking, that he would make a motion to approve our changes to the objective actions. And do we have a second on that? With the changes that I noted to Jay.
Mark, can I add one thing?
Yep.
I noted at least 8 acronyms in here that I think we might want to spell out. You know, things like VCB for the Visitor and Convention Bureau, EDC, just some of the acronyms that I think we should probably flush out in full language here, just to make this clear.
All right.
They'll add 4 pages. Just kidding.
I'll add a few.
Yeah,
And some
well,
of these I don't even know.
Yeah, probably.
Might be
So
out there.
CDBG, that doesn't come up again in 10 years.
But I don't know, on the other hand, with the way people are nowadays, you just Google NWRCP, I would guess that would come up, Northwest Regional Planning Commission.
But this is to just sit down and read the document. I think it would be helpful. I would
That's fine.
Yeah, we can put a list of acronyms in here. Rather than changing each one, we could just put a list in there that defines each one of them so it's clear.
All right,
that's a-
I make a motion for, to include in my first motion that we would make a list of the acronyms.
all right. Is there any other comments?
Yeah, I found my little error that I thought in housing.
Okay.
It's in,
Objective 1, 2,
Objective 2, Action 5, it should be just monitor. Everything else is, you added an ing and nothing else added an ing into here. So
Right.
just change it to monitor.
monitor all septic systems,
Yes.
the reporting of data.
That's the English teacher in me.
Objective 3,
2,
objective 2,
Last one.
action 5.
right. Change it to monitor.
Let Jay catch up. Housing. Objective 2, action 5.
Got it.
All right,
Thank you.
so where we're standing now, Phil's amended his motion to include adding a little acronym section. And Kay's change to monitor, and my changes of changing one time frame to ongoing and adding the tribal. Any further comments, or I need a second?
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept with the changes noted, the Sawyer County goals, objectives, and actions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that part is complete with the changes recommended.
Jason, I'll get you a clean copy of that after I get my notes in there then.
Great.
Then I'm gonna probably just turn it over to you.
Yep.
Yeah, so the items, agenda items 3 through 5 will all fit under this discussion. So we're talking about the mapping, the existing land use map and the future land use map. So the deadline has passed for towns to get back to us with any comments, questions, thoughts, ideas related to both existing and future land use. We've received a few. We did get some information back from a few towns. And I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. We've made those changes. I don't believe we've received anything since the last meeting. I'd have to check with Clem, our GIS specialist, to confirm that, but I don't believe we have. So what you see is the existing land use maps on the web page. I think of future land use. Are those future land use maps out there as well? Can somebody scroll just to make sure that, yeah, so they're there as well. So just to refresh your memory, the existing land use is a compilation of data from a modern inventory, recent inventory 2020, 2021. The future land use maps were those maps that were defined by the communities in Sawyer County and then ultimately approved by them either through their own process or just by re-ratification of the map that was in the previous comprehensive plan. Either way, it's their decision, their choice as to how they want to define that and the criteria that they want to use to do that. So that said, everything that we've got is on the webpage. The deadlines have passed, nothing new to report. So, you know, I guess we're at the stage of saying, are these then what we want to include in the final plan? Is there any additional changes that need to be made? That's kind of where I'm at, you know, as far as with the committee on this exercise. We'd like to get it approved so we can move forward with the finalization of the plan. So.
I'll chime in first, that I know we looked at it in the town of Bass Lake and we sent in our thoughts on it. So if the other towns did the same thing and didn't want to change anything, they probably didn't send anything in. So I'm all for, we gave them the opportunity to update it. They can still update their own. It just won't get in the new plan. But I'm for approving them now. We gave them the chance and they all were meeting. Yes, Linda?
Question for Northwest Regional Planning. This is Linda Zilmer. Edgewater has not talked about this at all. It's never been on an agenda. Is there a way that we can document for this version of the comp plan which towns responded and which ones did not? So somebody looking back, you know, from the future can say, well, why did our town, you know, why didn't somebody say something, and they have it documented that some towns didn't even answer?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd have to check with our GIS guy to see what information he's received, but we can get a list of those communities that have responded. Sure. Yeah.
Either that, or you could ask for the ones that's on that list that these were updated by these towns in 2021. And,
yeah.
And just ask her, that's all you'd have to do. I'm looking at Bass Lake, and you do have all the, what we sent in, you do have those in there now, so thank you.
Yep. So I'll ask Clem which communities we've actually received changes from. I don't know if he'll have the dates on that. I think some of them were sent in by mail. So
Well,
that might.
2021.
We just need to have 2021 on there.
No, I mean the date at which we made changes. So, or we received changes from those communities. We'll just have the communities which we've actually received changes from. I might not have the exact dates we received those changes.
Yeah, they changes in 2019.
Yeah.
Okay.
They went
Yeah.
through one.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can just put the latest date, people. Yeah, that would work. I don't know if you put it in the index, just in parentheses. When
Put it on the map.
Going to it.
Yeah,
just
I put it on the map because I think it should be readily apparent that there was no input from the town.
I don't know that we're going to go back and put it on each one of the maps, but I think we can maybe slip an index in there somewhere, just basically stating dates that they were received. Otherwise, we have to go back in and edit each one of these maps, and that's going to be pretty time consuming. I think we could accomplish the same thing by doing an index.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Do you go through each of these then for review process?
No, I think we just do it in aggregate. You know, it's whatever the town provided is what they provided. You know, again, it's their decision, their choice. I would make note though that if there are communities that are, and there probably will be communities that either update or develop plans between now and the end of this cycle, which is 10 years from now, that those should get incorporated as soon as they're developed. So it's not like we wait 10 years from the adoption or the readoption of the Sawyer County Comp Plan to incorporate anything that happens during that life cycle. So if, you know, the town of Edgewater updates their map, for example, and it happens 6 months from now, at the time that map becomes effective, then that map should become effective as part of the Sawyer County Comp Plan.
You need
So
to
we're
work
not,
for that.
Can I ask another clarifying question?
Yep.
For those towns that did a more formal update process, like working with Northwest Regional Planning, Are you taking the maps that were developed out of the formal process, or are you then also accepting changes from this latest solicitation that wasn't part of the formal process?
They can decide, it's up to them to decide. They can use the map they did in their formal process. They could use a different map. We gave them the copy of the map that we had the most recent version of, and said, you know, if you want to edit this, you're welcome to do so.
And some towns literally went through a town board procedure and drew colored pencils on the map that changed.
Right. Right.
That's I think towns are becoming more aware that that's a real critical thing in here
Some towns.
well, it's becoming more and more prevalent, let's put it that way, that we're holding meetings and members of the town are going, well, how come that's that? Well, it was approved and the town people voted on it and everything else, and well, we better change that. So, you know, people are becoming more aware of it, but all right.
For clarification, like the town of Hunter this coming year is going to updating their plan, and they certainly will be going through, and they're going to use Northwest Regional Planning. I presume that at least that's what they've been talking about. So consequently, going forward, when they actually, let's say their map gets changed somewhat, going through that process, you will automatically then insert that into the county?
It won't be inserted into the document per se, but there should be a mechanism. In fact, maybe this is something, I've written this into every other plan update that I've done. I thought I put this in here, but maybe not. Let's check. Can we go back to the implementation section, the action items under land use? I thought that was written into
Like here?
into this. No, the item that we just approved,
The goals and objectives.
goals and objectives and action strategies, implementation chapter. I just want to make sure that in the land use section, or implementation is probably the better place for it. I'm working with 45 pieces of paper here, so this is going to take me a second to find it.
We got time.
Okay.
Land use.
Okay, I don't see it in there.
Action 5, the last one, talks about encourage future development of community design elements, aspects, and land use plans. That's related to pedestrian bicycle access.
Yeah, I think what we want to do, though, we want to have a separate action in here that states, actually it'd be more of a policy, it would be a policy statement. I think it'd be the only policy statement that the plan has in its entirety, but a policy that says any town plan that's adopted after the Sawyer County Comp Plan update and before the next update cycle 10 years from now becomes incorporated into the county plan by reference. So by that, it would basically take, let's just say the town of Hunter developed a plan in 2024. Once they adopt that plan, then that automatically replaces the content that's in the comp plan today. So if the county was conducting a review and wanting to look at Hunter's plan as part of that review process, that they would refer to that new document, not what we have in the plan. So it would be an additional policy. It would, like I said, it would be the only policy that we would have included in the document.
Where would you propose putting it? It really doesn't fit in the section.
We would put it under just general plan implementation. It doesn't necessarily have to fit specifically in one area, but it's an implementation mechanism that should really go in there under just general plan implementation.
But does it belong under intergovernmental? Because it's the town needing to communicate to the county so that the county knows to incorporate the change?
I mean, not necessarily an intergovernmental action and policy. It's a policy related to how the exercise of implementing the plan.
So that's at the beginning of our current one.
Implementation is the start of it.
Yeah. So it'd be in the blue section on like our current document,
Yeah, you can slip it in here somewhere.
in the introduction, somewhere in
Plan
plan
updates.
updates.
Might be.
I thought it was in here, but again, I'm working on paper here, so
Well, Jay's looking at 9-2 on our current comp plan.
Yeah, and this would be on any of the agenda attachments, and this is before the actual goals and objectives portion.
Right.
An intro and an implementation.
That's
That's what constitutes action.
I can just to tell you how I've handled this in other counties, it's sort of been one of two ways. Either we put a policy in the plan itself under general implementation or right, there's a very small paragraph. Just the update that I just completed for Douglas County contains the language, the exact language I would like to use here. Basically stating what I just stated, that the county comprehensive plan will incorporate by reference any town, village, city comprehensive plan updated during the life cycle of the plan. I think it's just good practice to do that because I think that's what the intent is anyway, if I'm not mistaken.
If I would make a motion, you would get that verbiage to Jay.
I will do that. And do you want to see that? Would you prefer that be a policy and just a small paragraph in the plan itself? Or is there a preference as to one or the other? Do you want both of them? Either or. It's not. We're not talking about a lengthy activity here. We're just making sure that we're
Just a paragraph in the
I
beginning.
think just a paragraph in land use.
got it.
Just
Can do.
Plan update section would fit in there. We already talked about a living document.
Yeah, so it's kind of that intro, there's a few paragraphs in the intro. There's the implementation, which is Wisconsin state statute language. Then there's an introduction, then a consistency review during plan development, and there's plan updates. It doesn't specifically discuss what you're talking about, but I think that would be the paragraph that would fit in there.
So move.
Okay.
Yep.
We can do that. Yep.
And maybe even some language that would tell the towns how they have to do it. Like it has to be a town notice, class 1 notification or something, just so that towns don't try anything funny.
Are you talking about language relative to how
Bass Lake.
language about how they adopt their plan? Is
Yeah.
that what you're looking for? Okay.
Yeah. Specifically related to
Well-
the towns.
Well, we could just simply say that a community comprehensive plan adopted under the requirements of chapter 66.001.
Well, being this came up under our agenda item, but in a separate section, could you, can we,
I think that's part of
can
four.
we, I think it's.
Part of
under-
4.
It's part of 4. Review
part
and
of 4,
define
review and
necessary
definitions. Yeah.
Okay,
I have a motion. Does anybody second it?
I didn't hear your motion, I was reading, what was your motion?
I don't know. It's been so long.
Okay, start
You
over.
moved to get the verbiage to Jane, but and then you talked about more about the verbiage.
Oh, I did.
Jason did it.
Jay's gonna do it. That's Jay will do it.
All right, so your motion is Jason's gonna write the verbiage and. it's
No,
be
he's gonna
in
get
the
it from-
land
from-
use section.
And give it to Jay.
Introduction where Jay says it belongs.
Right.
In the intro.
All right.
Plan update portion.
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
all right.
All right,
Alright.
so you got the motion
I got the
written
motion.
down?
You got
Great.
whatever it is.
Any further discussion?
I don't understand.
Oh, is there a second?
I'll second
I
it.
thought Linda did, but I guess I'm anticipating. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? All right, all in favor?
All right.
Bye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries to get that verbiage to Jay and get it in the plan. So then going back to the maps themselves, then once Jay's done writing.
Good.
I'm comfortable then with that verbiage in there that we can approve the maps that we have that listed on their webpage as the most current. Anyone else have any concerns or comments on that? If not, I would entertain a motion so they can get rolling on that to approve the current and future land use. Oh, okay, I guess I made the motion. Is there a second?
When you say current and future, are you taking 2 agenda items under one, or which
Yep.
one are we voting?
We voted on both.
Be 3 and 5 right now. Jason,
Yeah.
what's number 4
He
on
kinda
the
took-
agenda about?
Yeah, because I do want to talk about number 4, because if you look at that Bass Lake map and you compare it to the classifications that Edgewater has, they're really, really different. And like you have woodlands and natural areas where forestry could be industrial productive forest versus natural areas.
I was going to bring, can you bring back up Bass Lake's map, by the way, would that be hard to do? You got a second? I meant to bring,
We did talk about earlier that we wanted the maps to be individualized to the towns,
right,
not a blanket.
Eyes, yeah.
But I mean, should we just like vote on one agenda item at a time?
We can. I was just-
Yeah, thanks.
I was just going by Jason lumping all 3 of those together. And, well, you weren't at the last
You
meeting.
can approve, we still have technically have a motion from March.
I'll withdraw it for now, and I'll refine it.
I mean, we could still approve agenda item 3 and 5, the existing land use map and the future land use map, and then go back to Jason here for the review, refine if necessary.
Well,
future land
we
use
almost
classes.
have to discuss 4 before we can do
Okay.
5. So I guess I will refine my motion to the existing land use maps. I say we approve those.
All right.
Is there a second for that?
second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the existing land use maps, 3 on our agenda. Any further discussion on that item?
And that would be to include the notation somewhere as to one where towns responded. to
yeah, we
something.
already did that one.
Yep, that would include that. That's already been approved.
Did I see Bass Lake?
Yeah.
All
So I
right.
guess, Jason, the question's back on to you as far as number 4.
Yes,
Oh, we have to vote first.
all in favor?
Oh, sorry.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries for the existing land use maps. Jason, you want to go, well, let me touch on that first. I'm a big town proponent, and I know the county's got a heavy hand in this. But I think the town knows their town best, and whatever they're classifying stuff on theirs, I think each town should have a say in that. So I like the individual maps, and I think I like that towns are a little bit different, but I think zoning and the county can work with what's shown on it because, you know, they have to look at what their future is. So that's my say on it.
I just go,
see the legend.
yeah, I
I
think
know.
what I see a lot of times in zoning, when they have looked at comprehensive maps from other towns, I can't remember if it was Winter or whatever. Well, what does recreational residential mean? And so when you have woodland and natural, does that mean it has to stay natural? And that poor zoning committee then is left trying to decide, well, what did Bass Lake try to mean when they said that?
We have
Well,
definition.
it's in our comp plan. It should be in their town's comp.
We have a definition.
Yeah, but we're doing a county plan now, and the
Right,
zoning
but-
committee's got to look at the county plan.
I thought,
So residential, is that high density residential or is it recreational residential where you're gonna have a bigger lot, you have septic system?
it's been so long, Jason, but I thought that when we did Bass Lake, now that we're getting deep here into the weeds, that we identified the green, woodland, and other natural areas as forestry residential. And I made a notation at the bottom that be changed to that because we actually have a definition and a criteria for that in our comprehensive plan. And I forgot to bring it today. But it's not, we'll just go on, it's fine. We're not.
Let me just say about item number 4. When I put this agenda item together, it was before we got to the stage we're at now. This agenda item is really to refer to a class system that's uniform across the county. So we're not working with that type of a system. So agenda item 4 is really a null point here.
Okay.
So by incorporating the town maps, you're also incorporating the town's definition. So if a town has a definition for a classification, that definition gets incorporated as well. I understand the challenge on behalf of a zoning committee trying to interpret a plan where there isn't a definition in a town map or one town differs from another. That's just part of the nature of accepting this method of defining future land use. So it's really incumbent on communities then to be very clear about what their classifications mean. And recognizing from the county's perspective that these aren't consistent across the board. They mean, so forestry, for example, may mean one thing in one community, and it may have 20 different meanings across the county. That's entirely feasible. Same thing with residential, same thing with commercial. It's up to each community to, as part of its planning process, to, good planning practice is you define what that classification means. And there tends to be some reluctance about doing that sometimes at the community level. They're reluctant to place density standards on things because of the connotations that this is some sort of a zoning exercise. So I understand that, but this is what the challenge is in light of that, dealing with that fact. This is the kind of situation that we're stuck in. There really isn't a way to try and uniformly cross-reference all these categories and put them together in any meaningful way. We've tried to do that in the past. It just gets really, really confusing by creating matrices and different tools to try and analyze these from community to community. I've kind of gone the way of throwing that out, saying that really isn't very effective, and these things change from time to time. So really, as part of a county review process, there should be some mechanism in that to say, hey, town of Bass Lake, what do you mean by woodlands? What do you mean by residential? Does this have a special definition for you? That's really the appropriate way of dealing with it.
Jason, I would point out that you've done virtually almost all the towns in Sawyer County, haven't you guys at Northwest Regional?
Everyone.
I think we've done a few. We haven't done almost all of them, but we've done several. 5 or 6 probably.
I think going back to the beginning, I think you guys were involved in every one.
Except for the town of Hayward.
Yeah, except
Go
Hayward.
back.
But anyways,
Yeah.
And just going by ours, there are all a lot of templates that I could pull our plan up and I could pull up the Stone
Hunter.
Lake or Hunter, and there's a lot of the same verbiage, all the information changes, but they follow a pretty consistent deal. But I know our town, it's in there, it's defined in the different areas in our comp plan. And I know in the past that Jay has gone to, and I can cite specific examples if you want to, where he's actually gone to the comp plan. So he's been prepared at variances and at the zoning committee where people are claiming stuff. Not all towns bring it up when they, do their information for the county, but I think it's on the town's end to do that. So I'm comfortable with the town submitting what they want on theirs and let them defend it or not defend it.
So would we be adding the definitions to a county map in the county plan? This is a document for the public as well.
Right. And
Each town would have their own.
Yeah, but how many people would even know that if they look at that map, that they have to go to a town and why make them? If the town is going to say, this is what they want, they should spell it out right then and there when they do the map.
well, then you'd have to include every town's comprehensive plan in the county one.
Well, if we're gonna say every town can have their own map, then every town should have to supplement their map with their definitions.
Ideally, I think that'd be a great way to do it if it worked out that way. But like I said, some towns just don't feel comfortable with that approach. And we respect that approach. We respect their decision not to use that approach. So you could require it. You could basically say that, hey, if you want your community's comprehensive plan to be incorporated into Sawyer County's plan by reference, you have to have 2 criteria. You have to have a land use map that we can interpret, and you have to have definitions that support that map. Those are the only 2 things we need. You could require that as a county for each town going forward.
Or we could just
wouldn't want
put
to do
some
that.
verbiage, we could just put some verbiage in, again, like we did on the other things, that, for more specific information on the town's land use or future land use map, go to the town comprehensive plan.
Yes.
You could
Yeah.
come up with some magical language for that.
Right, and when we look at future land use maps, at least from the zoning perspective, it's usually when you're doing a rezone application. You're wanting to rezone a specific piece of land. And at that point, I not only go to the current Sawyer County comp plan, but I go to the individual towns comp plan and pull what they have as their definition. Town of Edgewater, they have the whole area of Lake Tech as shoreline, which is a terrible definition. I wish they would change those maps.
But you gotta use
But
it.
that's what the towns decide. And like Jason said, he respects the towns to choose their own, to choose their own path.
And just by reference, what happened in Edgewater is when Northwest Regional Planning gave us our first draft to start working with, they did that shoreline protection area all around the lake, and they said shoreline residential. And so we had the debate in Edgewater, well, just because it's shoreland, that doesn't mean we want to develop every inch of shoreland. So we took out the word residential and we just identified shoreland to identify that, hey, there are special criteria, things we want to be careful of. And so that's why Edgewater looks the way it does. We took off the word residential because we didn't want to say just because it's water.
Sure.
Right. No. So would you be
Okay.
comfortable with Jason putting some language in there like we did on the other part, that for explanations of specific towns, go to their comprehensive, the town's comprehensive plan for definitions and.
I don't think that's necessary. I think they're getting in the weeds a little deep, to be honest with you.
I'll just say you incorporate the maps into the Sawyer County comp plan, but you also reference the town's comp plan for their specific definitions.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jason, or are we just splitting hairs here?
Well, I think we're actually incorporating not just the map, we're sort of incorporating the entire town comprehensive plan by reference. So it extends. Earlier, my discussion was just revolving around the map, but actually the entire plan is incorporated by reference. So if the town has supporting information that defend the classification structure that they came up with, you would most certainly want that information to be rolled into the review process at the county level. So that said, it might be a reasonable idea then to add some language to the county plan that states that fact. And then would encourage communities to be clear about identifying what they mean by establishing criteria for classifications, what they're actually stating.
I don't know, we've been using this now the way it is for, 20 years now?
Yeah.
And I've been involved in zoning for 20 years in different capacities that, like Jay was saying, really this comes up, and I can go back to 3 zoning administrators, and every time it was a rezone came up, you're virtually required to look at the town's information on every rezone. So I think we're covered. It'd be great to have more information, but I think there's enough for the people to be informed, and if they're looking to do something, I mean.
And I think maybe because you're from Bass Lake, you have that perspective, because you guys do a lot of work with that. But I don't think Bass Lake is representative of most of the other towns. Like, I think if you go to Edgewater, you won't find those definitions. So Jason's suggestion that you have language in there that would encourage the towns to better define what they mean by those is not a bad idea. I think it's a good thing.
But why would you want?
But maybe Edgewater, even though you would like it, I would like it. But if the town board doesn't like it, and there are some towns that frankly don't care.
I don't know that I'm for chastising the towns that you guys don't have definitions, that you better do it.
Well, I'm just saying, I think Jason said something about encourage the town to have those criteria.
Right, but that wouldn't have to be in the plan. That would be somebody like you telling your town, you guys are gonna be due for an update in your town here too, every town.
Jason?
Yeah.
Does the current Sawyer County comp plan reference not just the town's maps, but also the plan as a whole.
I think we just talk about the maps at this point in the implementation section. I think that's all we're talking about here. I don't know that the rest of it, I mean, the definitions that go with the classifications would apply, but largely the rest of that information that's in the town plan is for the town. You know, that's their implementation, their policies, their actions.
So if we approve the future land use maps.
Yeah.
As a motion here, that would automatically trigger that the definitions are included with the map. So we don't have to necessarily spell it out in the Sawyer County comp plan. It's already basically viewed that if we're including the maps, it also includes the definitions for the land use.
You could make that presumption, yeah. I think that's
a
fair.
presumption I make.
Yeah.
Unless there's a reason why we want to spell it out verbatim, but I mean, if I'm looking at a map that has a legend and I have no definition of the legend, that should be included as part of the whole process. So that I go back to the town.
Back to the town. But yeah, so I'm comfortable, like I said, I've been using them now for 20 years. I know I've been at the town of Hayward meetings. Their planning committee is going through, they have overlays, they have everything. But a town like Linda, like her town, they don't have definitions, and are they gonna put them in?
They do, they're just
Generic.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with the way they are myself. That's my thought. Anyone else online that has any, we're kind of hogging the time here in person. What, anyone online want to speak up?
I think that, this is Kay, I think that definitions for the town, individual towns is very important and should be included somewhere. Or reference to.
I'm trying to look that up. Is that a Hoover or what is that? Okay, I'm gonna go back to the meeting. I'll call you later.
Jason, do you have some kind of language that we can slide into the comp plan at some point there?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, is we could add language just to the effect of definitions. If a community has definitions, those definitions are included. And then
I'd be comfortable with something along those lines.
Okay. We'll do that in the land use section then.
We'll call for a motion on that.
So we're going to incorporate into the land use section a little blurb, like Jason just said, that if the town has definitions that are incorporated, and has anyone got a problem with that then? Okay, is that fine?
I think that, I think that's good, because that's where our definitions are in land use.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm fine
I
with
second Kay.
Bill, you
beg
did
your-
the motion?
No, Kay made the motion just now.
I did?
Yes, you did.
Is that a motion, Kay, that with that change, we'll approve the future land use maps?
Sure.
Okay,
Second.
second by Phil. All right, any further discussion on that item? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So that takes care of 4 and 5 in that motion then. Well, 4 was a non-issue, 5 we kind of touched on it, so. Right, we're on to 6. Plan adoption process, Jason?
Yeah, so the first part of that adoption process will get to clarifying what we were just talking about in several instances. So you've provided me with some information that I'll need to generate. That information should become part of a final draft. So I wouldn't recommend this committee approve the plan until you see exactly what I develop, and then you approve that language, to make sure that everybody has seen it, everybody's comfortable with it, there isn't something that we're missing. So by the end of this week, I just made a note to have to you by the end of this week, have all this information generated, and then I can send it to Jay. And can you distribute it then, Jay, so that everybody in the committee gets a chance to look at it?
Yep.
And then maybe at some point in the short-term future, then we can reconvene, or you can reconvene just to approve the draft plan. Because what we're going to have to do, we're at the point of the process here, we're talking about adoption. And that's a process. So that's something that's going to take at a minimum 45 days. Usually it takes longer than that. Usually it takes around 60 days. So the process for doing this is pretty straightforward. It's spelled out in Chapter 66. You as the de facto plan commission, you are the committee charged with updating the comprehensive plan. Your role will be to recommend the plan for adoption by the Sawyer County Board of Supervisors. That recommendation would then go to the following board meeting, from whenever your meeting is, the following board meeting, be presented to the board in an update, however that would be handled in Sawyer County's case. The board would then say, okay, we received this information, now we're going to set a public hearing. That's what's spelled out in statutes. Then the board would schedule a public hearing. So that public hearing could take place either at a county board meeting. Well, let me back up. That hearing needs to be posted under a Class 1 notice. So we're talking about posted twice in the official publication for 30 days. So during that time period, we have the plan then on the website. We have it at any other location, maybe that we want to identify a location in Sawyer County where a physical copy can reside for review by the public. Following that review period, then that public hearing is held. And like I said, it's either at a county board meeting or it's at a plan committee meeting. Maybe it's one of your meetings, if the board designates to do it that way. I don't recall how that was done when the original plan was adopted. Most likely, I guess it was probably at a board meeting.
Prior to a board meeting.
Yeah, okay. So then we hold the hearing. Following the hearing, the board has one of two options. It could either take the comments that were received during the review period and at the hearing into consideration and then make a recommendation that you as the plan development committee go back and revise the plan, or it can adopt the plan either contingent on making changes or as is. And that essentially, that fulfills the adoption process. Then it initiates the distribution process, which is, I guess, technically part of adoption, where we have to send copies to adjoining municipalities, send copies to the Department of Administration. That's pretty easy to accomplish. It's just that cycle of running the plan through its various steps on a timeline that is a little bit more challenging. So in kind of starting that discussion, I guess the first thing I'd be looking for from you is getting a recommendation for adopting the plan, basically looking at it and saying, hey, we've reviewed this as the Sawyer County Comprehensive Plan Development Committee. We believe this is a good plan that's worthy of adoption. We recommend that the board adopt it. And that should be recorded in the official minutes of this committee and then be presented to the board at the, like I said, at the meeting following that plan development committee meeting. So the timeline for doing that on your end, I guess, would be kind of what I'm looking for. If I am able to provide you, which I will, provide you all the necessary information based on tonight's discussion by the end of the week, is it reasonable then within the next couple of weeks thereafter that you would be able to convene or basically be able to convene and initiate that process? Or do you want to carry it out, further down the road, or do you want to look at the comments and then decide how you want to proceed? I'm just kind of leaving it up to you, how you want to go about it.
I have a question. I think someone else has a question here as well. As far as once this comprehensive plan development committee reviews and approves the draft, is there any statutory requirements as to a time length before it can go to county board for their initial approval? And I guess that's the question that I have is what is the county board approving to schedule a public hearing for it?
Yes. The county board is recognizing that the plan development committee made a recommendation that the board adopt the plan. The board can adopt the plan without holding a public hearing, so then the board would schedule a hearing.
And that's what I need to provide to the county board prior to this committee adopting the draft.
Well, is there a member of this committee that regularly updates the county board?
No, me.
Okay, so that's really all, that's what we've done in other counties. That's what we just did in Douglas County. We took a committee member off our plan update committee and basically said, hey, when the next board meeting, can you update the full county board as to the status of the comp plan at the committee level?
Okay, I think I got you.
Yeah, so there's nothing formal in that.
Right, so the county board doesn't have to have the draft in front of them, it just,
No.
comp plan is making the recommendation for the approval process. County board, we need you to temporarily approve this process so we can schedule a public hearing.
Yeah, basically the board would initiate the hearing process under the class 1 notice by usually designating that the clerk go through the posting process. I have copies of several postings, all of the, the legal stuff that I can provide for them, for their office to publish.
For timing, Thursday, this coming Thursday is county board, so we obviously won't get it in there. June, it would be the third Thursday of June. It's potential if we can get a draft version back to our eyes within the next week and a half, and then schedule a meeting within the next 2.5, 3. We'd still have a week before county board to get it on their agenda.
Yeah, and that should be realistic. I mean, if I get you these changes, however, we're not under the gun per se. I mean, there's not something looming. If things don't happen perfectly and this gets delayed for a month, that's not.
Worst case scenario, then we're into July county board for them to approve a public hearing.
Okay.
Yes.
When the first county plan was adopted, probably earlier or somewhere around the time where we are right now in the process, Sheldon held, I think there were 3 just public informational sessions at different locations around the county. It wasn't a public hearing, but it was more to inform the public about what the comprehensive plan is. And he had big maps up. Is there an opportunity to have like one public informational session before it goes to public hearing? Because I mean, my observation of the county board is by the time they get a document for public hearing, they figure all the work has been done, and they're probably just going to want to adopt when it, when that public hearing happens. I'm just wondering, is there room to have one public informational session before we get it in front of the county board?
For the second time, right? You'd be fine with it not having the informational meetings, at least set up the public hearing?
Then the public hearing.
I don't know. I don't know. We can be flexible about when it could happen, but I would like to have a public informational hearing before it goes to public hearing.
Part of the, what happened the first time through was, this was the first comprehensive plan the county had ever had, and all the towns, the same thing. And I would have to say that most of the towns at this point have had public hearings with their plans necessarily. And when the pieces come together, that we're at a different place than we were 20 years ago. As far as people being, a lot of people were against comprehensive planning in the first place. But I hear what you're saying, but there will be 2 people there, me and you.
But you know what, that for history's sake, just like, the department heads got all I forgot how many people Jay sent things to, and only a few of them sent something back. But at least for history, for posterity, you can say, we had this meeting. And because, some of these towns have not done anything. So what about those people who've had no representation into it? And then you get the questions out instead of people showing up on county board public hearing night. And county board looks at them like, well, what are you doing here now? We just want to approve this thing.
But it does no good for us to complain about Bass Lake and what they're not doing, because the county can't make them do anything. Or Edgewater or towns that don't want to do anything, that's certainly their choice. And if their residents are willing to keep electing the folks that don't care or are not fulfilling it, then I don't know what responsibility we have to make sure that everybody in the backwoods is over this comprehensive plan. Or we'll have the one fellow that was here 2 meetings ago.
Again, in the winter.
Yeah.
Jason, you're more familiar with 66.1001.
I'm not, I just,
When we approve the draft here and we go to county board to ask them to hold a public hearing on this, is there a time frame in which that public hearing needs to be held? So let's say I go in June,
Mhm.
I'd like to hold a public hearing. Could that public hearing be in August? That way it gives me July to throw another class 1 notice out for implementation, call it a pre-public hearing at the committee
Informational.
level versus the county board level.
I mean, it could be in October if you wanted. There's no time limit, no.
Okay.
No. And as for the public informational meetings, I don't think we've done one of those in over a year and a half. Maybe it has a lot to do with COVID, but I think more so has to do with the fact that we're working on a lot more plan updates than initial plan development. And as was already mentioned, this, the legislation's been around for quite some time, and I think there's a lot more familiarity. When we were holding informational sessions back in 2000, 2002, we got a lot, not to say a lot of attendance, but we got attendance. When we're holding them in 2010, 2015, we're getting very little. We didn't do one for Douglas County. The committee decided it just wasn't worth the effort of doing it. And plus the data difficulty of having to do it in a virtual context. I think people just weren't in favor of it. So that's the only comment I have about it.
So the 30 days, that's just to notice the actual public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that, Linda, if that works, to do like, not necessarily a planning implementation seminar with Jason, but at least to put out a notice to the public so that they aren't bombarding county board, and that maybe the 4 of us, or maybe Jason or Emily online can field some T-ball questions.
I mean, we ask them,
We do, I know.
we've got zero.
But that doesn't go out as a class 1 notice, which,
Well-
again, even though it's a class 1 notice, it's probably not.
Well, we could put it as a class 1 notice for our final, before our final approval, but that puts us off another month. Or does it?
Right. I'd rather have this committee adopt the draft to go to county board to ask them, can we have a public hearing? They say yes, then we come back and almost do like a pre-public hearing.
informational.
Yes.
Informational meeting where if someone's got a great idea, okay, we get it down in our draft version prior to doing the 30-day public hearing posting to bring it back to county board.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion here? If you want to go down that route of hosting an informational meeting, defer implementation, defer adoption until after that is completely done. Don't get that part of it mixed up with the adoption proceedings. Things can get confused when we start talking about informational meeting versus hearing. I just prefer to keep the two completely separate. And considering the timeline, we'll have the official review process, the 30-day review process, which is different than a public informational meeting. A public informational meeting is, here's the plan. Do you have any questions about it? Usually it has some preemptive discussion about what it is, what we did, the process for getting it to this stage, and then opening it up for questions. That's sort of the informational part of it. The hearing, which is entirely different, is not a Q&A at all. It's just open mic, 5 minutes, comments. We don't banter back and forth. We don't answer questions. That's the way hearing's supposed to be run. But that informational process is exactly the opposite. It's, if you have lots of questions, go ahead and throw them out here. Let's get everything we can answered, from the people if they attend. But keep them separate would be my recommendation. If you're going to do this, you're going to do an informational session, delay adoption until after that is completely done. Because what happens sometimes is you hold an information session, probably not so much now as earlier, because I don't think you're going to get many people, but you're liable to get information that you have to go back in and make changes. Somebody will say, hey, that's a good idea. Let's incorporate this and let's make some changes back in the narrative. So now we have to go back and rework the document, and we want to have the document in a completely finalized, in a draft finalized state before the board makes the recommendation to hold the hearing. Does that make sense to everybody?
Makes sense to me. I'm
What I
for
think we
approving
do
it.
then,
I'm
at
not
that
for it.
point, is if you get us that working draft, I'll put that out right away as the Sawyer County Comprehensive Plan Development Committee will hold a public information meeting as well as a adoption.
Thank you. That'll work.
So if no one comments at that public information meeting, this committee adopts the draft language and send it out to county board.
Amen. That's the way to do it. Good.
Yeah, and this committee, by the way, this committee won't adopt. This committee just makes a recommendation.
Recommendation for adoption, thank you.
Correct.
You gotta adopt it to recommend it though, Jason.
Well, not technically. Under the language of the law, you
Committee
don't.
itself does.
Same way that zoning committee doesn't approve the rezone.
But now, I'm agreeing with that, because I don't think we're gonna have any comments.
Well, at least I can throw as a class one. Jason will have the draft version, which will hopefully be in PDF format that I can put on our website and say, here's our public information meeting. It'll be held this date. Here's a working agenda, and here's a PDF version of the proposed draft. Come one, come all. Here's your pre-informational meeting. If no one shows up and we have no other changes here, we recommend approval for adoption. Goes to county board, we get a public hearing set, and then if other people want to chime in then, so be it.
I just got one question that's not really relating to this, but on the process for the board is, the county board is very specific on, I'm trying to remember what the exception was, where they got screwed on a committee approving something that they put in language years ago. Was it on this comp plan? It was something.
No, the committee went off over here and they didn't want
And
to
they
keep it
wanted them
here.
over
They wanted
here.
it here, right here.
But they addressed it that this is the way these subcommittees work. So that's in our bylaws and the committee bylaws.
And we are within them on this. We're not outside of our
Right.
boundaries.
Right, I know. I just wanted to make sure because I remember
I was
they
on that
said-
committee.
they said we're never gonna have another committee again and this is gonna happen. So I just wanted to
Right.
make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to, but
No, it's-
it would be within the county board bylaws for the adoption of a ad hoc.
And I got the bylaws of, commission boards and committees, so I read through that, so we're fine. I just.
We were
know
just
they
to stay within our purview.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were not happy about what was approved by the committee, so, all right, so I
Somebody
guess,
ran with something.
so we gotta schedule a meeting then. Are you said you're
Right.
gonna
So
do
once I
a
get-
class action?
Yeah, once I get Jason's draft and we get another survey monkey for what works for our members as far as dates, I'll go to the paper, I'll do a class one notice, I'll have the draft version available on the website. If someone wants to come and look at a copy, I'll probably print the draft version out. And then it would just be scheduling the date at least a week after I'm able to get the public notice in as being a class one. We hold it-
You don't need a class one for a public informational meeting.
I know, but if it's gonna get any kind of additional word out, I'd rather have a little tidbit in there that the comprehensive plan development committee will hold a public information on the quote unquote adoption process of the comp plan.
Otherwise it won't get in the paper.
Right, so that'll be my little paper write-up, and who sees it, who knows, but it'll also be on the Sawyer County website. And yeah, we'll try to hold one. Yeah, it'll be timing if we can get to county board in July, or I'm sorry, in June. If not, then we go to county board in July.
So,
To ask for a public hearing, which we would schedule probably then for August or September.
Excuse me.
so you vaccinated
Howard,
Jason and Emily?
What's that?
You guys vaccinated?
One.
That's why I'm asking is, can
Yes.
you guys be in person at this meeting?
No, we'll be virtual.
Okay.
We didn't spend enough for them to be here
Nice.
in the contract.
They're getting in the groove.
Well, they're probably over budget.
All
I
right.
think I'll speak up during public comment at county board that you guys should not be tax exempt for real estate taxes.
Okay, so we need a motion then, or that's just, this was for discussion. It didn't say action, right, on our plan?
No, I don't.
Yeah, there's discussion. Timeline. All right, so we're gonna shoot for Jay's plan then. Get it in the paper, and as soon as Jason gets us the info, Jay will put his notice together, so we'll poll the members to see when the meeting works as soon as we can to the time frame after the posting.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right,
Cool.
nothing else? That covers our process there.
Jason, I'll get you the clean version of the objectives and actions, and if you need a reminder of what you said you were going to slide into the plan under that other policy decision, let me know.
Yeah, I should have everything. I'll send it to you, and if you notice I missed something, just let me know.
Sounds good.
All right. I say we're adjourned. I'm the chair and I'm doing that.
All right, sounds
Thanks,
good.
everybody. It was a good meeting.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, everybody online.